Welcome back to the I Do What I Want series. And for those of you who have seen in videos, and some of you know what this is my home shop where I do all of our vehicle maintenance and repair. Today, the I Do What I Want part of my videos is another hobby of mine. I'm a production engineer, broadcaster, systems builder, all of those things. I'm also a mechanic as well, have been for a very long time. And today I'm working on a 2008 Buick Lucerne with a 3.8 Series 3.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
And for those of you who know, they're a great car, but they can have some problems that just suck to deal with. And here's kind of what we're dealing with right now. This Buick Lucerne has the Series 3 3.8, which is so fun. That particular motor, or setup, sorry, doesn't have an IAC. However, the symptoms this car has is what I would expect an IAC to do. Initial complaint when this car was purchased is that the car would just die randomly. No check engine light, nothing. If you waited a little bit, it'd fire back up and keep going, and then eventually die again. And a customer also stated that every now and again it would get worse when there was more heat present, mainly temperature outside. So they sold this car to a friend of mine looking to offload it. They sold it incredibly cheap. So I did what most people with this car do, is I replaced the fuse box under the back seat. It did have a melted port where the fuel pump relay was, and that seemed to solve that problem. And about 2 months later, I'm back again with the same problem. However, I've been able to prove that the fuel pump runs and works. It's at pressure, just like it should be. We have a few more tests to do there, but it seems completely related to heat. I've had vehicles before that have problems with heat soaking, like a 2000 Honda Odyssey that I owned, V6, and it heat soaked all the time. It was very hard to start, but that was a hard start issue. This one will just shut off, and also you won't be able to start it right away. It just clicks. Originally thought that might be a starter solenoid, and it's not. The ignition just goes into lockout. In fact, if you cycle the key off, lock the doors, unlock the doors, put the key back in, fire the rig up, it'll go, or rather it'll turn over. But if you do it right away, once it's died, it's not gonna run. If you wait 5 minutes, it'll run not well. And if you wait 30 minutes, it'll run like there's no problem at all. So I'm not the first by a long shot to have these issues with this car. So in today's version of this, I am cleaning the throttle body. I have already replaced a mass airflow sensor, brand new. Ironically, the one that we pulled out ohmed out bad. So did replace that. The car has been completely wiped and reset several times so that it can go through a learn cycle. And I had some success after that, and then it just started doing it again. So I really am starting to lean towards, once the car comes up to a certain temperature, its preference towards dying 10x's. I mean, it happens so quick. Something that's really interesting is that the air temperature in the car, in the intake, the actual reading for that gets up to 160 to 170 degrees. And I haven't figured that one out yet, because I have taken the air cleaner box off, like all the way off, and just let outside air come straight through the intake. No air filter, me next to it. I've put cardboard around it. I've made a tube that goes outside of the car to guarantee that I'm not pulling hot engine bay air. It'll still read 165. And that sensor is in the mass airflow. It's a part of it. There's two sensors in there, and it's called the IAT, intake air temperature, and it reads just super high. But when the car's cold, it'll cool back down with the car and read low. So my thinking is that it gets to a certain point where the IAT is really, really, really hot, and it's telling the computer to send less and less fuel. And so I think that when you put this thing in drive, you can almost always kill it in drive. This thing will run in park at that 160 degrees forever. You could leave it for hours and it would be fine. You put this thing in drive, dies immediately. Get it started back up, put it in reverse. It'll fluctuate pretty heavily. Put it in drive, it'll still fluctuate more often than not when it's hot. It'll die. So I've replaced the IAT MAF series sensor 3 times. As far as I can tell, all of them are good. They read accurate. At least all of them are the same. They read the same. So I have that high IAT temperature, and I also have a dirty throttle body, and I'm going to clean that right now. From what I'm seeing, Buicks of the 3.8 Buick engines are very, very sensitive to dirty throttle body. That makes no sense to me, but what do I know? So I'm going to go clean that and then run this thing again and see if we can get it to fail. So without further ado, I'm going to open up this door. I'm going to start cleaning this throttle body out and seeing if we can't narrow down what some of these issues are and hopefully not have them anymore. Who knows? Who knows? Okay, so here we are. The Series 3 does not have a plastic intake. It's got this aluminum one. And where we're going to start is way down in here. So I've already got mass airflow changed out. Obviously that was done here. And I've removed this line. And you can see in here, if I move this throttle plate and kind of sweep in here, you can see that that's pretty dirty. That's just, you know, barely touching it. So it's not awful, but there is some good dirt in there. So I'm gonna come in here and get this cleaned out, and then put some stuff back and see what we can do here. So that IAT is a part of the mass airflow, and it's all the way back into here. And that sensor has 2 thermistors, I believe. And as far as I can tell, I'm not seeing any problem with those. They're all seemingly okay. There's another issue I need to start looking at on this car. I've not actually run into this one before. This hose is always just like sucked down, like it's collapsed. And I went ahead and re-bled the coolant system, but something tells me that there's a block in it. It also gets way expanded when it's running. In fact, it looks like it wants to blow off. So I think there's a block in the coolant system. I don't think that has anything to do with the issues of just dying that the car has, but a couple of other things that we might be checking. Again, we don't want to do the parts cannon thing as much as possible, but these ignition modules are also known to die, and their issues can be exacerbated with heat. So I really don't want to have to do that if I don't have to. So I'm going to avoid that as much as possible. It would be a shame if that's the actual problem. Another thing in here is this serpentine belt has some good cracks starting in it, so probably about time to change those, that serpentine out. Which luckily everything's really easy to get to on this V6, so that shouldn't take much time at all. I'm gonna get this throttle body cleaned and see if it helps. The most difficult thing about this so far has been that this car does not throw code when this happens, and it doesn't matter if it's the ignition parts that die, if it's throttle body having an issue, no codes. Now, I could be wrong, but some people talk about a crankshaft, the crankshaft position sensor corroding on the end, and ironically, there are wires in this car that are corroded, so I don't know if that's a problem in this vehicle, but usually when you lose crank signal and the engine dies, there's a pending code at least, if not a hard code. So I don't think that's my issue because I have 0 codes, nothing pending, nothing comes up. Boy, you can run this and kill it 6 times. No codes. Very frustrating to have to go find something with no codes. And I don't have a bi-directional scan tool like an Autel or something like that to go figure it out. So for now, clean the throttle body, see where we go from there. We're here in the Buick. I don't have the RPM hunting that I had before. Now obviously the engine is not hot. It's coming up to temp. But it's not all the way hot. So we'll see if that holds. My friend bought this car from, basically had this issue of the car dying all the time, and they were older, so this was a real problem for them, for safety. I mean, it's a problem for anybody, but it was even more so a problem for them. And they got the car, and the car has a rebuilt title, and it makes me wonder if this car in a previous life was involved in an accident caused by shutting off and someone wasn't able to stop, or something like that. This might have been an issue with this car for a while. I know the previous owners had it for a couple of years, and they were driving it like this, so I don't know that to be the case, but I think the possibility is fairly high. Alright, I'm gonna get this thing up to operating temperature and get going. Fun thing that happens with these cars is you can have issues with the torque converter locking up because the ability for the car to let go of it stops, usually due to a torque converter solenoid. Engine is not able to disengage from the transmission and the engine will stall. Given that this vehicle also does this when putting it into drive, I believe it's something I need to keep on the table in terms of potential causes. However, I don't know that that's going to be her issue. I do have a line pressure problem, though, in this transmission, where when you first put it into first gear, it'll bang into first gear. No other gear, and only sometimes. But it's a pretty good hard shift when it gets into first and has that problem. And it shows up in a code. I actually get a code for that, and comes up as a line pressure issue, something like it's running at max. And I haven't researched that super heavily yet, but that's a known problem. So there's just all these little things in this car that each one of them individually could lead to, hey, my car just randomly dies. Makes it very difficult to solve for this problem. Kind of a pain in the butt, to be honest. On a drive for about 10 minutes, I went a bunch of miles and no change. I am starting to feel a little bit of an unsteady idle. I'm up to 99 degrees, and I know that heat soaking in this car, gets really bad when you just let it idle. So I'm gonna on purpose do that. Pulled up here to a gas station. I'm gonna get some food because I'm at a gas station. And I already see the the intake air temperature climbing. I'm at 100 degrees now. So I'm gonna sit here and hope that this thing gets hot. I got plenty of road out here to let it die. I am pretty far from home, but if I let this sit long enough, I'll be able to get back. So that is my plan. Overheat the car on purpose. Not overheat, just let the engine temperature inside get hot. Would you go? Come on. All right. Commence test. Some initial things I've noticed. I'm at now a reading of 171 degrees on that intake air temperature, which is pretty dang hot. And when I put this in drive, it hunts around a little bit, but not every time. But that is something it was doing before, was hunting around. So I'm gonna go for a drive. Of course, I sit here for like 15 minutes with no cars, and then the moment I need to drive out, there's a car. Makes sense. Used to that kind of crap. I'm gonna take this on a drive and see if it'll die. And in the weirdest way possible. Hopefully it will. We'll see. 172. Die for me, baby. Die for me. I unfortunately don't have a way to check for fuel pressure. Just taking a quick drive. Honestly, this drive was just to see if cleaning the throttle body solved the problem. The only factor I don't have right now is sun's not beating down on me. So I can't duplicate that, but an intake air temperature of 171 degrees is pretty freaking hot. So we'll see. Hopefully we have an issue.